So, what happens when a YouTuber, someone who built their entire career on exposing scams and corruption, ends up getting exposed themselves? Today, we're diving into the spectacular implosion of a massive channel that learned that lesson the hard way. This question right here is at the absolute heart of this story. We're talking about Blair, the creator behind the once incredibly respected channel Illuminaughty. We're going to walk through how this online empire, built on a foundation of calling people out, just crumbled when that same scrutiny was turned back on its own creator. Okay, so to really get the sheer scale of this downfall, we first have to rewind and look at how Illuminaughty climbed to the top, how she became one of YouTube's biggest online watchdogs. On the surface, to her 1.6 million subscribers, Illuminaughty was this champion for the little guy. She was seen as a fearless crusader, taking on shady corporations and MLMs. But, behind the scenes, a completely different story was taking shape. One filled with accusations of plagiarism, manipulation, and just ruthless tactics against anyone who got in her way. So how did it all unravel? Well, you can pretty much trace the entire public collapse back to a single tweet she made in April 2023. An accusation that backfired spectacularly. It was the spark that lit the whole inferno, and things escalated fast. I mean, look at this timeline. On April 20th, Blair tweets accusing another big creator, Legal Eagle, of copying her video style. Just one day later, YouTuber H. Bomber Guy hits back, but with receipts, exposing her own much more serious plagiarism. And then only 2 days after that, the floodgates just burst open as former collaborators started sharing their own stories. And this right here really shows the hypocrisy that just poured gasoline on the fire. See, her accusation was pretty weak. It was about a common editing effect, this ripped paper thing. But the rebuttal? It was about substance. H. Bomber Guy put clips side by side showing her scripts were basically just rephrased, sometimes word-for-word copies of documentaries. The internet's focus snapped from her target right back to her. With her credibility just shattered by those plagiarism claims, it was like a dam breaking. It created an opening for former colleagues, people who said they'd been silenced for years, to finally tell their side of the story. Multiple members of her old collaboration channel, Sad Milk, they all came forward. And they painted this incredibly consistent and frankly disturbing picture. They described a toxic workplace ruled by fear. We're talking about smear campaigns with fake online accounts and weaponizing NDAs and legal threats to make sure nobody talked. And some of the allegations were just startlingly vindictive. Like this one. Evidence came out that Blair allegedly paid a staffer $200 for one job. Listen to hours of old audio to find a clip of her former friend, The Click, saying something awful that she could then use against him. And this wasn't just online drama. For some people, the consequences were devastatingly real. Her former employee and housemate, Wander, claimed that after he was fired, she took back the car they had an agreement on, along with his stuff, essentially leaving him high and dry, forced to rebuild his entire life from scratch. So, with this career-ending firestorm raging all around her, Blair releases a response video. But instead of putting the fire out, it turned into a masterclass in how not to apologize. It was pure gasoline. The video was almost 40 minutes long, and she gave it this provocative title, Illuminaughty Exposed. But anyone expecting some genuine accountability or a real apology, well, they got something very, very different. I mean, the video started with her saying she wanted to take responsibility, but it quickly spiraled into just attacking everyone else. The most shocking part? She read private, personal messages from her ex-colleague Wonder, exposing his deepest struggles with mental health, all in an attempt to make him look unstable and untrustworthy. This move was just condemned across the board. It was seen as a gross violation of privacy, a really manipulative tactic, and almost immediately her former colleagues, like The Click and Wonder, started posting their own videos with screenshots and recordings that directly proved her claims were false. It just made everything a million times worse. The fallout from that apology was swift, and it was total. The Illuminaughty brand, once this symbol of online justice, was now just a pile of rubble. After H-Bomber Guy's video went viral, her channel got slapped with this label, a content mill. And for a channel built on research and authority, that's a death sentence. It completely destroyed her credibility. The very trust her brand was built on, gone. And the financial hit was just staggering. We know from court documents that her channel's revenue took a nosedive of over 95% in just 1 year. It went from nearly $75,000 in a 2-month period down to less than $3,000. It wasn't just the money either. The audience just bailed. The channel lost over 500,000 subscribers. Her views, which used to be in the millions, could barely get a few thousand hits. And then the final dominoes fell, one right after another. Big sponsors like HelloFresh publicly announced they were dropping her. She filed defamation lawsuits against her accusers, which really only kept the drama going. And then, after one last video in February 2024, the channel went dark, and Blair just vanished from the internet. The story of Illuminaughty is, without a doubt, a major cautionary tale for the digital age. It just goes to show how quickly a reputation built on calling out others can absolutely shatter the second you're accused of being the very thing you claim to fight against. It really makes you wonder just how fragile that online trust really is.